angels. Calling them spirits of heaven strongly implies it. What's confusing though is that Zechariah's chariots are very different in appearance and number compared to Elisha's flaming legion. Nonetheless, these beings really seem to fit the bill, and it's possible that there are still hidden details about them waiting to be uncovered by a careful reader.
This is what happens when you exit the Matrix. Pay close attention, the end is astonishing. When you are in the process of awakening, you will realize that everything around you is an illusion in which you have been trapped for many.
It's now time to dive into the second sphere, and it's very much unlike the first. Instead of boldly discovering new angelic species, we'll get to experience the joy of heaven's bureaucracy, because while we have no idea what these angels look like, we do know what they do, and the creatures of the second sphere are essentially middle management. While the first sphere passes down orders and communications from God, the second sphere makes God's will happen. They do this by assigning duties to the third sphere angels below. Dionysius describes those in the second sphere as, quote, true lords, perpetually aspiring to true lordship, and they providentially fashion themselves and those below them as far as possible into the likeness of true lordship. They do not turn towards vain shadows, but wholly give themselves to that true authority, end quote. So be assured that heaven's middle management are ethical, inspiring beings, which is good because these three angelic choirs are pretty darn important. On top of being essentially heaven's project managers, they also use their own special powers to regulate the forces of the universe. As before, the Bible is our source for this sacred knowledge, and specifically the key details found in the Epistle to the Ephesians. The first choir of the second sphere is known as the Dominions. These are angels of leadership and the true lords Dionysius was raving about. The Dominions' role is simple. They make the commandments of God known to the lower spheres and assign duties to their subordinates wherever they see fit. The second choir of the second sphere is called the Virtues, and this angelic group is responsible for the continued operation of the universe and its worlds, including our own. The Virtues are sometimes referred to as the spirits of motion because they're believed to be responsible for natural cycles, such as the changing of the seasons and the orbits of celestial objects. Simply put, they exercise complete control over the elements of nature. The third and lowest choir is referred to as the Powers, and their primary responsibility couldn't be more different than the two choirs above them, because the Powers are in fact warrior angels, the angelic choir assigned by God to be heaven's primary military force in the never-ending war between good and evil. They engage in spiritual combat against the demonic choirs of hell, Satan's own counterparts to the Powers. In my video, Demonology Explained in Obsessive Detail, we explored the distinctly military-like hierarchies of the fallen angels and their demonic legions. But this lore comes less from the Bible, and more from the reasoning and speculation of Christian mystics and occultists. So where did they get these ideas in the first place? Well, it was probably inspired by the lore of the Powers, which is 100% canon. In countless biblical verses, beginning in the book of Genesis and spanning all the way to Revelation, ancient Hebrew military terminology is used to describe the angelic army's chain of command, combat operations, and even their base camp. So, to the credit of the demonologists, if heaven is so equipped to battle against their enemy, this simple fact suggests that Satan's legion poses a very similar threat. Certain Bible verses also confirm that hell is a tough enemy. One of the most famous quotes from Revelation depicts the Powers staving off an invasion of heaven. Quote, "And there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels waging war with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels waged war." End quote. The dragon, of course, is the devil, Satan, and his angels are what Christians refer to as fallen angels. Many theologians speculate that these heavenly soldiers may also be God's mercenaries, the specific term being the destroyer angels, sometimes known as the angels of death. Their terrible destructive potential serves at least one known purpose: to pass merciless judgment on us humans. The raw punishing power of the destroying angel is shown in the second book of Samuel. Quote, "And when the angel stretched out his hand over Jerusalem to destroy it, the Lord relented from the destruction and said to the angel who was destroying the people, 'It is enough, now restrain your hand.'" End quote. It says a lot when God has to tell a destroyer angel that they went a little too far with their destroying. But if you're looking for raw numbers, in the second book of Kings, a single one of these angels killed 185,000 Assyrian soldiers overnight, with such ease that the Hebrews didn't even know what happened until they woke up the next morning and saw the mountain of corpses. But that's still baby damage compared to what was prophesied in the book of Revelation, where just 4 angels judge the entirety of mankind and end up killing 1/3 of the world's population. But while the roles played by the powers definitely emphasize the violent side of these beings, at the end of the day, they're actually not so different from the 2 choirs above them, the dominions and the virtues. All angels of the second sphere help regulate the universe at large, and the powers are simply responding to that which offsets or threatens the moral balance established by God. Finally, we reach the third sphere, the holy angels furthest from God and the closest to humanity. These are the angels who we meet most in the Bible, the ones who delivered commandments, revelations, and assistance to people. Unlike these spheres above, the third sphere is in continual direct contact with our kind. These are the beings that popularize the only somewhat accurate idea that angels are messengers, the intercommunicators between God and humanity. In fact, in Greek, the word for angel is angelos, and in Hebrew it's malak, both of which literally translate to messenger. However, this term was used in the old sense, when a messenger wasn't only a deliverer of messages, but had the far more general goal of doing the bidding of their master and carrying out their will. That being said, angels delivering communications from God was extremely common in the Bible. While there are countless examples, the best known is in the Gospel of Luke, where the Archangel Gabriel delivered 2 positive pregnancy prophecies, alerts of the incoming births of John the Baptist and later Jesus Christ. This was much to the shock of the husbands, of course, since John's mother was far past menopause and Jesus' mother was a virgin. So some of these angels were definitely messengers as we think of them today. But as we dive into the third sphere, you'll see that their roles were far more than just this. To begin, the first choir of the third sphere are actually the angels most of us probably considered the closest to God, and we wouldn't be at fault for believing so, because the Bible and other religious texts really seem to place so much emphasis on the power and importance of these beings, who are, of course, the archangels. There is a lot of ground to